Hi, I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. We begin with a CBC exclusive. Several legal fights are underway over Windsor's NextStar battery plant. CBC's Emma Loop brings us our top story.
Multiple contractors say they haven't been paid for millions of dollars worth of work here at the taxpayer-supported NextStar battery plant in Windsor. The companies have turned to the courts to try to recover money they claim they're owed. But legal fights, in the construction business at least, aren't all that unusual. Several Canadian firms that have helped build the $5 billion NextStar EV battery plant have filed lawsuits over alleged unpaid bills. One of those companies is Sylvan Canada. It filed a statement of claim earlier this month for $45 million. Sylvan doesn't take aim directly at NextStar, which is a joint venture between automaker Stellantis and South Korea's LG Energy Solution. Instead, Sylvan says a different South Korean firm engaged in egregious mismanagement. Sylvan claims that threatened safety on the site. It also claims it led to costly errors and kept them from doing their job properly. That led NextStar to dismiss Sylvan last month, according to the statement of claim. Other lawsuits and property liens also claim NextStar or its South Korean contractors have failed to pay for work. But Geza Banfai, a Toronto construction lawyer, says he's not surprised there are lawsuits, especially around such a complex project.
It is a multi-billion-dollar project, and undoubtedly, the parties were operating under a tight schedule. It's in NextStar's interest to get this plant up and running just as quickly as it possibly can.
When asked about the lawsuit, Sylvan provided this statement. This is truly an exceptional situation, both in scale and in the complete breakdown of cooperation. We remain, however, willing to discuss settlement. NextStar says it won't comment on litigation it's not party to, but says it's proud of the work at the plant so far. Emma Loop, CBC News, Windsor.
A judge is weighing sentencing arguments of a man guilty of second-degree murder in a case of intimate partner violence. Dawson Chen has this report. Just a warning, some of the details are disturbing.
A Honduran man who stabbed his migrant worker girlfriend 48 times says he's sorry and that he has lost much in what he calls a moment of anger. Sentencing submissions were heard today in the case of David Enrique Espinoza Montes, who killed his girlfriend Charmaine Carling in a Leamington rooming house in September 2022. Montes told the court that before this crime, he was not a person who hurt others. According to the agreed-upon statement of facts, Espinoza Montes killed Carling in a jealous rage after learning she was seeing another man. The 48 stab wounds to Carling's back, neck, and torso were inflicted with a kitchen knife and a pair of scissors. The Crown describes it as a prolonged and brutal attack. Espinoza Montes pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. His lawyer told the court today that he is extremely remorseful and the murder was a crime of passion that was immediately regretted. Espinoza Montes had no status in Canada at the time of the crime. His foreign worker visa had expired and his refugee application was pending. The victim, Carling, was from the Philippines. She had been working in Essex County since 2016. She had been sending money home to her family in the Philippines. According to a victim impact statement from her sister, Carling's 2 children have been dealing with suicidal depression since her death. Espinoza Montes has been in custody since his arrest almost 3 years ago. Second-degree murder in Canada carries an automatic sentence of life in prison. The Crown and the defense are jointly recommending no chance of parole until 2034. As far as whether Espinoza Montes will be allowed to remain in Canada, his lawyer says that will be up to immigration officials. Espinoza Montes' lawyer acknowledged community concerns over what has been called an epidemic of intimate partner violence. She said her client has been spending his time in custody, engaging in significant self-reflection. A decision on the sentencing is expected on July 23rd. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
And now for a quick look at the weather. Riley Lachuk shows us what we're dealing with here.
Well, thanks, Chris. Great to be with you on a day where we start to see a bit of a change here. You can kind of see the leading edge of this cold front as it passed through southern Ontario. That has dragged not only our temperatures down, but our humidity as we've gotten through the last day or so here. Overnight tonight, we're looking at a much more comfortable night for sleeping, maybe even cool enough to sleep with the windows open tonight. Partly cloudy, 18 degrees in Windsor. Still looking at a bit of a northeasterly wind out there, northeast 15 to 30, that carries carries us into the day on Tuesday, 26 degrees. Still a bit of humidity out there, so feeling closer to 29 or 30 with the humidity as we get through the afternoon on your Friday, but we are looking at much drier conditions as we get through the weekend. I'll have that coming up.
Hey, Sarah Riley. A coroner's investigation into a drowning at Sandpoint Beach continues. That could take months to complete, but a safety recommendation has been sent to the City of Windsor. The coroner's office says Windsor should do another safety audit of Sandpoint Beach after a teenager died while swimming here in May. The last safety audit was completed in 2012. Experts say they should be completed every 5 years.
There was a recommendation that we're working on right now that came back last week from the coroner's office.
The City Council voted unanimously to shut the beach down after a 15-year-old boy died over the May long weekend. He's the third person to die at the beach in 2 years. A coroner's investigation into the drowning has led to one recommendation for the City of Windsor, saying they should do a comprehensive safety audit immediately because, quote, a lot has changed in 13 years and the waterfront safety standards updated. The audit completed in 2012 suggested council consider shutting the beach down and move it eastward. A $15 million master plan was approved in January to do just that, but the mayor warned it could be years before it was fully funded. Right now, the beach has gone to the birds, fenced off to swimmers in the middle of a heat wave at the height of summer. Councillor Angelo Marignani says this needs to be a priority.
Let's work with all partners who have interest in this. Let's listen to our residents because our residents are clearly saying they want this beach open.
The city has until September 30th to respond to the recommendations. Marignani isn't sure this beach will reopen this summer.
Looking at timelines, to be honest with you, no, I don't see that happening. But I do see it happening next summer.
Others on council have said this site will never be safe enough to swim, suggesting that the city's only public access beach could be shut down forever. Council is expected to review options for the future of the beach later this year. Well, you might be noticing more e-scooters out on the road. They're rising in popularity and complaints. Some say it's time to put the brakes on their misuse after a new report says more Canadians are getting injured, either while riding an e-scooter or because they were hit by one. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has the story.
It might feel like e-scooters are everywhere these days.
It's really convenient to use it in the bike lane.
But they aren't the safest.
I'm very cautious when I'm riding around. I try not to ride on main streets, etc. But yeah, there are a lot of accidents going on.
E-scooter injuries are on the rise, says a new report from the Canadian Institute for Health Information. Between April 2023 and March 2024, nearly 1,000 people went to hospital for scooter injuries. Half of those were related to e-scooters, a 32% increase from the year before. Men between 18 and 64 account for most hospital visits, but emergency room doctors say they're also seeing a lot of kids.
The one that I could remember was a 14-year-old boy who was riding a scooter, and unfortunately he was in an accident. He ended up having a brain bleed, where we had to transfer him to a trauma center.
My message is for parents not to be buying these for their children. They're not toys.
It's mostly boys between 10 and 14 years old who end up at Toronto's sick kids. Many didn't wear a helmet.
If you have speed plus head injury, a helmet will help mitigate those injuries every time.
One injury prevention group says better regulations are also needed.
The current laws around scooters really vary. Enforcement is such a key component to preventing injuries.
Across Canada, there's a patchwork of e-scooter laws. Toronto, for example, has outright banned them, though they're still often seen on streets and sidewalks. In cities like Vancouver and Edmonton, they're available to easily rent in many neighborhoods, but there are different rules about who can ride. Experts say young kids shouldn't be riding or jumping on with another person. And if you do ride, wear a helmet, ride on properly paved streets, and follow the rules of the road. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Toronto.
Several renters are out of their homes after a suspicious fire damaged their building. It happened earlier this morning at an apartment complex on Ottawa Street. The fire department says that it started in the back alley and it compromised a gas meter. Crews were able to contain the flames to the back. Damage is estimated around $75,000. 8 people and 5 units are now displaced. No one injured, but the fire again considered as suspicious, so investigators are looking into the cause. Well, if you want to get up close and personal with the Gordie Howe Bridge, you can thank a much smaller version of the bridge at the University Faculty of Engineering as a way to help. The Bridge Authority donated tiny models to the university as a symbol of the students' involvement in the making of the actual bridge.
The Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority has been a long-standing partner with the University of Windsor. Most of this has been happening with our co-op students. They're basically helping our engineering undergrad students see much more than the classroom. They get to see what engineering in a real-life situation is actually about. There was 2 models in total that the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority donated to engineering. This one is the larger one.
This is extraordinarily exciting for us here in engineering because it represents a culmination of a partnership with the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. They've hired so many of our co-op students. They've been participating in talks with our students, serving on panels, inspiring our students to think big. Like when you look at these models, they're not small little Lego models that we're talking about. This is a big project. And I think it's really important for students to understand here in Windsor, you can still think big, but live locally.
I will be able to drive by the bridge in, maybe like 50, 60 years, and I can say I had an impact on that, regardless of its size. We might just be co-op students, but knowing that we had a piece of that project is so incredible.
Now, for something small to something huge, Canada's Wonderland just opened up its newest roller coaster. The Alpine Fury is the longest, tallest, faster coaster in the country, hitting 115 kilometers per hour. The CBC's Mercedes Gaztembede went for a ride to check this thing out.
We love Alpine Fury! If you're a fan of a double barrel roll, Alpine Fury might just need to make your band's newest and most sought-after attraction.
The launch was it was a 10 out of 10. I've been on all the rides here, best one by far.
This is my first ever big roller coaster and I found it really fun. It just kicks you off and then you really don't have time to think about it.
Now I had a chance to ride this thing not once but twice earlier.
I'm gonna try so hard not to swear.
This ride is fast. We're talking speeds of up to 115 kilometers per hour, but it feels even faster. Double, triple barrel rolls, hovering upside down for what feels like an eternity. The ride holds no mercy, sending you on your first launch just seconds after it starts, propelling you inside the mountain and shooting back up like a whip. It's not like typical roller coasters like the Leviathan or Behemoth that wind you up slowly to a stiff peak and shoot you down using momentum. Magnets along the track of this ride keep you flying forward through the end.
What just happened? What just happened? I know, it looks like I was having a heart attack. It may have been bordering on that, and I did walk away with a stiff neck after the second go, but this ride delivers thrill, speed, and adrenaline in a way riders won't soon forget.
I had so much fun of it. One of my top 10 roller coasters.
It was so fun. Definitely 10 out of 10 recommend. This is the best ride in all Wonderland.
I think it's going to be like the top ride in the park for a while.
Canada's Wonderland is open with regular hours until early September, so if you're looking to try the ride before the season ends, pile the family in the car and don't eat too much for breakfast. Mercedes Gaztembede, CBC News, Vaughan.
I think I'll be sticking to the Snoopy roller coasters next time I pop over there. Now, from that high-octane ride to a heavy-duty crane, 5,000 tons. That's what 900 full-grown male elephants would weigh, and that's how much Big Carl can lift. Take a look at Big Carl there. That's the nickname for the world's largest crane, 250 meters tall, practically a landmark now in Somerset, England. It's seen here lifting a massive dome. Now, this is going to cover a nuclear reactor that's under construction. The Hinkley Point Power Station is Britain's first new nuclear plant in more than 2 decades. Comes online around 2029. The project is part of the country's push to boost energy security and reach its climate targets. We got a couple big things of our own out here in Windsor. We got some ships on the water, Caesars, the flag, a high of 26 today. That heat warning lifted after a long stretch. We'll have more of the forecast in the days ahead, plus the rift within MEGA and how Trump supporters are getting bashed by the president himself. That story after the break. Welcome back. Prime Minister Mark Carney has met with First Nations leaders in Quebec. He's promised to listen to their concerns about the federal government's major projects legislation.
The Act requires meaningful consultation with Indigenous peoples, both in the process of determining which projects are in our collective interests and in the development of the conditions for those projects going forward.
First Nations leaders had expressed worry that the new law allows energy and infrastructure projects to be approved before Indigenous consultation. Carney says Bill C-5 is designed to connect and transform the national economy as it faces trade threats from the United States. He also says Indigenous economic growth is at the center of the new framework. The government plans to hold similar meetings with Inuit and Métis leadership in the coming weeks. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump is slamming some of his MAGA support base. Now, they're demanding that he release more records from the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking investigation. Trump, he's name-calling anyone demanding more information. The so-called Epstein files have created a divide between the Trump administration and the MAGA loyalists. Katie Nicholson has more on the split.
Despite President Donald Trump's fervent wishes, the furor over the decision to not release any more files from the federal investigation into convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein isn't dying down. Yesterday, he criticized people who were calling for more disclosure or for Attorney General Pam Bondi to be fired, calling them weaklings, and suggested he didn't want their support anymore. Then he went on to say this.
It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net, and so they try and do the Democrats' work.
The White House press secretary was asked today what specifically Trump meant by that word hoax.
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency.
The problem is, while Democrats are making political hay over this controversy, the loudest voices are coming from Trump's own supporters. Far-right figures like Laura Loomer and Alex Jones. Elon Musk has been using his platform as well to hammer away at the administration. One Republican representative is even working with Democrats to force a House vote to release the files. It's playing out prominently as well on cable news, even late-night comedy shows. And a Reuters Ipsos poll has now found that 69% of Americans think the government is hiding Epstein's alleged client list, something the DOJ says simply does not exist. This all blew up last week when the DOJ and the FBI released a memo saying they wouldn't release any more files from the sex trafficking investigation into the disgraced financier. Many Trump voters believe that a cabal of wealthy elites are involved in a global pedophile ring, and Epstein is a key figure. They supported Trump in part because they believed he would release the documents that would prove these theories. Now many say they feel betrayed. One potential off-ramp for the president, suggested by some Republicans, is for Trump to appoint a special counsel to look into the matter. Today, the White House said that's not something the president will be doing. And so the questions and the outrage continue. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
A somber anniversary was marked in eastern Ukraine. It's the 11th anniversary of the shooting down of Malaysia Airlines flight MH17. It killed 298 people on board. People gathered in the Russian-controlled region of Donetsk to pay tribute. A 24-year-old Canadian man from Ajax, Ontario, was one of the victims. The passenger jet was bound for Kuala Lumpur in July 2014 when it was shot down. Pro-Russian separatists, they were fighting with Ukrainian forces at the time. Last week, the European Court of Human Rights ruled unanimously that Russia was responsible for the downing of the aircraft. The top human rights court has also ruled that Moscow has repeatedly violated human rights in Ukraine. Oh, Riley Check will have your full weather forecast coming up after the break. The heat is there, dryness on the way. Hopefully no more of these little storms that keep breaking up our days with all that wind, that rain, those trees falling down. He's got to look at the full forecast coming up. bit of a weird day out there with all the gray clouds. Some sun poking through, though. Riley here with a look at what we've got in our full forecast.
Well, temperatures a bit cooler than they have been over the past several days here throughout southwestern Ontario. Windsor getting up to about 26 degrees this afternoon. Chatham-Kent 26 as well. Slightly cooler the further north you've gone. 24 in London, 25 in Sarnia through the afternoon. But I think what you've noticed is probably a decrease in that humidity as we've gotten throughout the day. That's because we have a bit of a northerly air mass coming in here. This area of low pressure over Hudson Bay starting to usher in some cooler air. Bit of a trough forming in the jet stream here. So that's allowing some of that cooler, drier air into parts of southern Ontario, into the U.S. Midwest, and that's really cutting down that humidity and cooling our temperatures down from what they've been over the past several days here. At the surface, high pressure over the Great Lakes right now. This is going to move across central Ontario, and this is also going to help clear our skies as we get through the overnight hours into Friday morning. So by the morning hours, we're into a mostly sunny sky really across the region, maybe a couple of extra high-level clouds as this next little bit of instability makes its way into upstate New York. But other than that, we're into a mainly sunny sky really as we get through the afternoon tomorrow, and temperatures a lot more comfortable as we get Friday into the weekend. Our next chance of seeing some instability coming as we get into the day on Saturday with the potential for some showers through the afternoon. We'll talk about that in your long range. Winds have been a bit windy as we've gotten through the day, but as we get into Friday, we'll really see that dropping down to northwest 15, gusting to 30. Even by the time we get to the supper hour, I think we're looking at winds closer to calm even as we get into the day on Saturday. So that high pressure really also helping to calm things down and dry things out as we get through the next couple of days here. First thing in the morning, looking at temperatures, 19 degrees in Windsor, 17 in Sarnia. First thing in the morning, into the afternoon, temperatures 24 to 26 degrees. Again, not as humid as it has been, so much more comfortable. And then we get into that chance of showers as we get into the weekend. So 26 for Saturday, 26 for Sunday. Then we start to see some cloud building in, Chris, as we get into the middle of next week. 26s and 27s, very seasonal for this time of the year.
Not bad at all, Riley. Thank you for that. And that is it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, just pop over to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and make sure you download the CBC News app for the stories that matter most to you. Throw on your alerts when something big's happening. We're going to send you a little ping right to your phone. You'll have the latest information at your fingertips. Thanks for watching. Have yourself a good evening.